Hi, welcome to the Business Spotlight series. My name is Karen Barnes, and I'm an accountability coach with Serendipity Action Coach of Central North Carolina. I am really tickled today to have Jim Dobbins with us. He is one of my favorite kinds of entrepreneurs, which is a serial entrepreneur. So this guy has a relentless drive to create successful businesses. He is the owner of Sharp Interiors, Triad Fireproofing, and Sharp Stone Supply. We're going to talk a little bit today about what it's like to start multiple businesses and to run multiple companies, which is something a lot of our entrepreneurs are really interested in and aspire to. He's going to share with us some lessons learned along the way and give us a little peek into what it's really like to be the owner of multiple businesses. So just a little housekeeping first. If this is your first time on the channel, look, hit all those buttons, subscribe, like, leave us some comments. Let us know what you found valuable about this, and let us know any ideas that you have for future guests. All right, Jim, welcome to the program today.
Thanks for having me.
Hey, my pleasure. This is going to be so much fun. So tell us a little bit about all your businesses and what your role is in each of those businesses and how kind of the origin story of the Jim Dobbins empire.
Well, I would say that it's not really a Jim Dobbins empire. It's just what happens over 35 years of trying to look after other people and growing to meet other people's needs. But anyway, when I was 28 years old, I had worked at 2 or 3 companies. I had gone to NC State and I have a civil engineering degree. So I have kind of a technical background. We were not on the same page at the place I was working. And I decided, because I had some carpentry background also, to start a company and just see where it went. We had a company, Highwoods Properties or Forsyth Properties, we had as a client. So we got to start with them, and you had John Turner and Randy Foster and Bill Wilson, and those guys were very kind to me to let me do their work for them. So we kind of learned how to get along with people, working for people who were providing a finished product at their office spaces. And it was high-end office work, so it was, you're getting to do some really nice work.
Mm-hmm.
And from there it grew. I mean, we just, Randy actually came to me and said, you need to have more customers. Can't just do it with one.
Yeah.
And so we branched out and we picked up A.L. Miller and Landmark Builders. And at the time, John S. Clark was a big company around here that we worked with, and Shellco. And, we did a lot of work with all of them to kind of expand our footprint. And that's kind of how it all started. Was, people would send you something, you give them a number. If it fit, you'd marry up a couple of your guys with them, and hopefully they got along and everybody worked. That's kind of how we started.
I love that. So how did you branch out into Triad Fireproofing and then the stone business? I mean, it all seems kind of
Well,
related, sort of
the stone
adjacent.
business started when I wanted to build my house myself.
Oh,
And so
cool.
we're also a general contractor. And in 1980, about 96 or 7, I started designing a house I wanted to build. And I got it taken care of, and we started looking for whatever the colors and the outside was going to be. And there was only one person in this area that did stonework, and they
Mm,
controlled
mm.
it. I had to buy the stone directly from him, but he didn't have time to put it on the wall.
Oh, wow.
So my guys learned how to lay stone. And from there, I basically went over scoured the countryside to see if there was anybody else's stone available to buy. And I found a couple of people that would sell me stone. So we started Sharp Stone Supply as an alternative, because there was only one option. So giving another option was a benefit. We had done a lot of stucco work in the market. So
Mm.
stone and stucco kind of go together.
Yeah.
So that's kind of how it all started. Was people were looking for a stone company, so we provided the niche to do that, and that was 2000. So it's been a
Nice.
pretty long time.
And what about the fireproofing company? How did that come about?
Well, a good friend of mine, I had been a fireproofing estimator at P. Watts Incorporated.
Okay.
While I did back then, we did everything. So if you estimated, you did the drywall, you did the acoustical, you did the fireproofing, the
Oh,
stucco.
got it.
You had to do it all. So I knew a couple of people in the fireproofing business, and a good friend of mine, John Alvarez, came and said, "I'm working at a place that wants me to retire, and I don't want to retire. So, do you want to go in the fireproofing business?" And at the time, I really didn't. But over time, he talked me into it. So we started that. I think it started in '08.
Wow.
So we've been doing that since '08. And then since then, I mean, John has retired and I've had to buy his half out. And so that's kind of how I end up with ownership in all these companies is that, when you start the first business when you're 28, you tend to be the last one standing if everybody else is older than you.
Yeah.
So it's been my responsibility, I guess, to take each one of these members of the team out as they decided to retire. And that's kind of what we've done.
And so you're the owner of three companies. So what's your role in each? Are you working in the business, on the business? How are you sort of balancing the demands
I
of those
I,
three?
I believe that, and I played a lot of sports growing up and I
Mm-hmm.
had some really good coaches. And the coaches that were the best were the ones that required a lot of you without dictating how to do it.
Yeah.
They would work with what you do to um, make your swing better, make your passes better, make your throws better. But they didn't try to make you do it their way. They would work with what you do and try to expand your abilities through working with what you do. So, you know, correction isn't tearing somebody down and putting them back together.
Yep.
Correction is working through what works for them and trying to adapt to it. And I had a boss that used to say, "If it's not broke, fix it."
Ooh.
And I'd
Mm.
go, "What does that mean?" He goes, "Well," he goes, "most people are 90% people. And that means there's 10% that you can get better on. And if you can break something backwards 5% to gain a 4% efficiency, you would take a 90% and move to 94% by adjusting something. But it doesn't mean tearing the whole thing down.
Got
So,
it.
you adapt to, well, and you think about technology. I mean, when I started at NC State, we were being taught how to use a slide rule.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. In two
Yep.
years, we were using Bomar brain calculators.
Wow. Yeah.
We were putting computer cards into a machine to do
Mm-hmm.
computer. And in a year, we had cathode ray tubes and keyboards, and and NC State was on the original internet. I mean, it was tied to Cal Poly, it was tied to MIT, it was tied to Duke. And so our uh, computer system was nationwide while you were
Yeah.
working internally. So it was kind of we've seen just if you're, I was born in '60, so you've seen a huge technological change, and that was brought to the lasers that we use nowadays instead of water levels and theodolites and bubbles that ride around in cars and get bumped around and get slightly off. A laser, as long as it's calibrated properly, is a superior machine. So we adapt to all of those things. So that's kind of how all of this kind of morphed, is that you you take the first thing, which was framing people's interiors and exteriors, and you rally people around you who have different talents,
Mm-hmm.
and you allow those people to help and educate the ones that are better at other things. So the whole team gets better because each individual has their purpose. And
Mm-hmm.
if it's a purpose driven thing, each one of them knows their role and how the system works.
So you just said, this is not on my usual list of questions, but you just said a phrase that I love talking to people about, which is purpose driven. So would you say that you are running a purpose driven company? And if so, what's your
Um,
drive
this sounds quirky. I believe in Newton's laws.
of
I think,
physics?
yeah,
Okay,
And
tell me
so,
more about that.
I think that, energy isn't created nor destroyed. It just gets placed around things. And
Mhm.
so is the energy that goes with people. You
Yep,
know, people energy is the same thing. And so you have basic energy that you or have positive, negative energy that you deal with people. And your best option is to try to be more positive. Now, at 27 years old, I would tell you there's a lot of people that know me back then that would say, well, why didn't you live to that then? Well, it takes a long time to learn a lot of this stuff. And, you know, the negative energy of fighting with people and yelling at people and being confrontational usually only at best deals in stalemate as opposed to gaining ground, because most people are not going to change another person's mindset once they're
yep.
set. All you're
Hmm.
doing is arguing with each other and you're not getting anywhere. So, you've got to find the way to listen to other people and find out what they need and then provide the need or try to help them get the need provided by somebody else if you can. That's kind of the basis of how to make it work.
Yeah, absolutely.
And over time, like I said, we've had, at one point we used to work over 250 people.
Oh, wow.
Now we're working 50 people and we're
Yep.
basically subbing out to different groups to do a lot of the work. But the stone business is run by a guy named Sean Kavanaugh, and Sean came from another sales position, and he is running that, and he also is very efficient at running warehouses. So he's got my warehouses and my yard out there as orderly as it's ever been. And then I've got Mike Folk, who has just come on, and he had been in the construction industry, but he didn't know anything about fireproofing. But sometimes it's best to have somebody who is completely, a blank slate, because fireproofing is a technical thing, but it's not that hard to learn. You just got to do it right all the time. And so he's learning that, and he's helping me develop some strategies as to how to go to market to make that a stronger company. And then here we have Mike Chambers and Dwayne Albert and Garrett Hedrick, who helped me manage Sharp Interiors, and they each have key roles to do there. And then we've got Sid Trantard, who is our jack of all trades, can fix anything, very knowledgeable about all kinds of things that are technical, how it goes together in the field. So he helps us when we do hit how do we fix this? He usually has a way to do that. And he grew up out in Yadkin County on a farm, and so farmers learn how to fix everything. So that's kind
That is totally true.
of,
Yeah.
he has a degree in fixing stuff, but he doesn't have a degree in college.
Well, he probably has much more practical, useful day-to-day knowledge than
He
many
does.
do, right?
He's
Yeah.
fantastic at finding the simple way to fix stuff.
Oh, that's awesome.
Yeah. But that's
Well,
kind of how it works.
so
Is you
Jim,
just find good people.
you sound like you've learned, I mean, you sound like a very enlightened manager, right? And you're actually talking about a lot of things that I believe in too, which is around mindset and positive energy and the energy exchange between people. And you
Mhm.
can't change people's minds, you have to build on their strengths, right? And it sounds like you're very intentional about putting people around you, building on their strengths, giving them the training to build on their strengths, and then so your role is what, chief? You're working on strategy,
I
long-term vision.
I still enjoy I mean, this is, people have heard me say this. I have done very well being able to color at a second grade level and do math at a fifth grade level.
Okay, tell me more
Okay.
about that. Yeah.
Well, when you're estimating, your whole process is to stay in the lines and know the footages that you're gaining. So the math is basically length, area, volume. That's it. That's what we deal with, and how to extrapolate an answer from that. The other is, can you stay in the lines so that you get accurate takeoff?
Mm-hmm.
And so you spend a lot of time making sure you stay inside the lines, make sure your scale is correct. You do use colors so you can show things from a colorization point of view. And then you just do fairly simple mathematics about how does this work and what are the quantities of concrete versus wood versus whatever you're estimating. And then knowing the customer and the location and how hard it's going to be, you adapt, and that's what you do. But it's not a strenuous set of math skills that's required, but it is something that you have to be able to be kind of well versed at how, cubic feet and square feet and all that tie together.
Well, I mean,
So that's what I did.
you make it sound so easy, Jim, but I'm sure after 35 years being in business, it's not always been that easy. So what are some of, I mean, what are some of the big lessons that you've learned over the years, and what are some of the big challenges you have right now?
Well, when you play sports, the first part of it is you got to learn what your value to the team is.
Mm-hmm.
So, if you're the second baseman, you have a role. If you're the left fielder, you have a role. And if you have a good baseball team that operates the way it's supposed to, the minute a ball is hit or a pitch is thrown, every player moves based on a reaction to what is happening, where the ball was hit, and how many people are on base. All of those things come into play, and you try to orchestrate. Everybody knows where they're supposed to be based on this, this, and this. Hit the cutoff man. Everybody's heard those things. If you played baseball, you got to hit the cutoff man. You don't take this, you run only on if told to run, that kind of stuff. And the hardest part is learning all 9 positions.
Yeah, that makes total sense. Yeah. Yep.
Because if you don't know what everybody else is doing, you can find yourself out there on an island without any help.
Yeah.
And so that's kind of the first step, is you have to, once you learn your position, you have to learn what everybody else is doing so that you can adapt and know, or at least expect certain things to happen. And that's kind of, I come from, like I said, I kind of treat everything as a coaching moment.
Yeah.
When people make mistakes, you don't vilify them. You give them encouragement while talking them through why what they did wasn't appropriate.
Yeah.
Because everybody else is doing this, and you on your own decide to break the script. And if we're going to do that, we've got to somehow have the ability to tell everybody else what you're doing so that you don't go rogue on us, because we all are going to be here to fix what you did, but it helps to have honest communication about when we are going to change how we as a group have decided to do things.
Yeah.
So, I mean, it is very hard. Most of us who started businesses would probably tell you there were multiple times where you were basically out of business because you had made the wrong decision, but something happened that kept you in business. And then you were able to pick up the pieces. And, I don't know if one of my favorite poems is Rudyard Kipling's If.
Oh, absolutely.
Okay. And the part about building it up with worn out tools is, when you fail, are you capable of getting up the next morning and going back at it with whatever you have? And then do the best you can to make a move to get better tools, to get yourself back into the game by just working with whatever you have. And over 35 years, I can tell you there's been multiple days, and my wife will tell you there's been multiple days that I come home and you're just wondering, something's got to happen over the weekend for us to be where we need to be on Monday.
Yeah.
But if you stay true to stuff, you basically, things happen. So you don't question them, you just move on. Divine providence, whatever anybody wants to call it, that's kind of what happens.
Maybe it's some of that energy you've been putting out coming back to you, right?
Well, I agree with that. I do believe that energy moves around, and if you're positive, you tend to push positive energy, and negative tends to suck things away from you.
Yeah.
Most people don't like being around negative people.
For sure.
So,
For sure.
if you want some help, you probably need to be a little bit positive about how things work.
So as you start thinking about the next 3 to 5 years, and you're talking about, your energy comes back around. So what are you looking to manifest for yourself and for your business in the next 3 to 5 years? What's on the horizon?
Well, I'm 63. I'll be
Mm-hmm.
64 this year. I really enjoy what I do. So as long as
Yeah.
health wise, I'm still good. I'm trying to cultivate a group of guys here that will, if they want to, um, continue what we do as I kind of back off a little bit. I still think I'll be a competent estimator slash salesperson for whoever or whatever we do. But yeah, I would love to have us take the same uh, pattern or way we do business and continue it and hand it off to Garrett or whoever decides that wants to be a part of that.
Yeah.
And that would be up to them to decide how that whole thing works. I'll be, you know, that crazy old guy that can tell you stories about how I did this or how I did that, but it'll still be up to them to do it their way. And each one of the companies is being run by different people, so each one can on its own move to whatever it wants to be. And
That's
I've tried to keep all that separate.
yeah, yeah. I mean, it makes total sense. So if you were to describe your leadership style, what would you say that it is? Because it sounds like you've really put some thought into
I'm
that,
a very
Jim.
benevolent dictator.
That's my line. Oh, that's so funny.
So I listen to everybody's solutions, and if they're good, I go with them. If they're not, I go, no, we're not going to do it that way.
Yeah, yeah.
So,
That's
you know,
hilarious. I've never
so
been served that back to myself before. That's so funny. Well,
I've been around a lot of benevolent dictators, and they seem to do a pretty good job of making the few calls that are necessary when everybody else is just saying the wrong thing. They go, no, 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 no.
yeah,
This is how
yeah.
we're going to do this.
That's so funny. That's so funny. Well, if you were to say, like, what is it that makes your companies special in the marketplace? What are you doing that's different, intentionally different, to add extra value?
Uh, the first thing is I think we have some really good competitors.
Mm,
So they keep you on your toes. If you're in a market that has great competitors, we keep each other honed, and everybody has to be at their top in order to stay alive. The guy that cuts his price doesn't stay alive. The guy that
yeah.
keeps his focus on, when from an engineering point of view, when you talk about engineers are supposed to design things to be efficient and economical,
Mm-hmm.
not really expensive. You try to do it the least cost for the efficiency of what you're doing. So if you follow that kind of logic, there's an amount of money that you have to make to stay in business. But you don't want to. I mean, Barry Amber, good buddy of mine, made a comment to me one time. He goes, "You can shear the sheep or eat the sheep. Which one are you going to do?"
Mm-hmm.
And that makes a lot of sense. He's an accountant.
Yep.
He goes, and some people like to eat the sheep, but then they don't have anything to work with after. So I look at our job is to provide the services necessary based on each individual company and what they want. So we do different things for different companies. Some companies want us to put their doors and frames in. Some of them don't want us to do any of it. Some people want us to do a complete turnkey. And then some people just want us to frame and hang sheetrock. And
Yeah.
we do that based on what their needs are and what they've built their company patterns to be. And that's what we do. So I don't know if that answers your question, but that's what we try to do is that we have people who we put with others. It doesn't always work,
Yeah.
and we have to make changes.
Yeah.
And sometimes it works for a while, then it doesn't work. And you have to constantly be checking the pulse of the guy you're working with and finding what's the struggles that we're having. Is it
Mm-hmm.
communication? Is it material deliveries? Is it whatever it is? And try to get people to focus on their problems. Um, Early on, when I was Phil Watts's place, he sent me on a 2-day training of how to understand people.
Mm.
And it's kind of an interesting, you've heard of the DISC method.
We use it all the time.
Okay. So the
So
DISC
what,
method,
no, hold on a minute. What are you in the disc?
when I started, you change over time
Hmm.
and based on what you're doing. So when you come out of school, your focus is not to be too confrontational, but be right. And so
Yeah.
I was a check mark that did this, and I was barely dominant,
Yep.
and I had a little bit of I,
Yeah.
and then I had an S and a C, and my C was high because I'm estimating I want to be right all the time. So
That makes
basic,
total sense. Yep.
basically a watchmaker. Okay.
Yep.
And today it's the other way around. I'm a high D with a lot of I.
Yep.
My S is here, my C just checks up. So my S is, Mr. Steady Guy doesn't exist anymore. But but I check people's work, but I'm not the guy to count on to be there every day the same way. Okay. But I
Yep.
think the best part about the DISC method, if they truly taught it the way you're supposed to learn it, is you learn how to make other people happy
Yes.
because you know how other people are going to react. And all of us know that. Everybody knows that when they're dealing with their wife or their kids, or they know what's going to make them mad, and they choose to make them mad.
Yeah.
Okay. They choose to make them mad usually because they're in a situation where they're not thinking right.
Mm.
They're already mad, and they
Hmm.
decide to take the pound of flesh as opposed to swallow it because it doesn't help,
Right.
because you have to overcome that. The minute you punch a hole in the ground, you still have to fill that hole back up. Okay. Now, if you can decide not to and somehow take it in, then you don't have to do that extra work. Because every time you do something like that, you lose part of the emotional capital that you give to other people.
Yes.
And our job's not to squander that, because that's part of Newtonian.
Physics.
Right. Okay. So that's kind of where I'm at with how that works. I don't always do it well that way. People will tell you, he's all, but I try. That's what I try to do. When you're a competitive person, played a lot of sports, you can let you having a bad day happen. But
That's right.
every morning when you get up, you control a couple of things, and your effort and your attitude are the two that you control the most, and you try to control time. But you can be happy or try to be, but don't share not being happy with other people.
Yep. Because then
And
you could become the energetic black hole, right? Nobody wants to be
exactly.
around you. Yeah.
And then the other is try hard. No matter what you're doing, just try hard. I mean, if you see somebody doing something and you can go help them if that's your job. If it's not your job, then you do your job. Now, too many people want to go help somebody on an easier task because they don't want to do their own.
Hmm.
And that's kind of, I mean, the guys around here will tell you, I talk about a couple of things, or two or three things, but our basic way of working is we follow Eisenhower's cube.
Yes, we work with that as well. Yep.
Okay.
Yep. Yep.
And we follow the idea that we all can help other people best when we're positive, and we work hard and we try hard and
Hmm.
we try to learn. I like the book. I like the book. Start with why.
My favorite question.
Okay.
Yep.
Because why gives you a purpose.
Yep.
So that's kind of where we are. We are all about going forward. Most of those things are going forward. Eisenhower's cube, and it and I know it, but it's either important or urgent. And it's neither of those. Why are you doing it?
Yep.
And the non-important, non-urgent stuff is what you do at home at night when you're watching TV.
Yep.
Okay. You don't do that here on your phone. You don't do that. You don't, because when you're not giving everybody your 100% effort, don't ask for a raise. I mean, don't be that dumb that you're going to ask for a raise when you're not giving 100% effort because you're doing this.
Yeah.
You
Yeah.
know, everybody pays people for what they do in an hour, not the hour.
We have a similar equation to the way that you think, which is be times do, right?
Mhm.
Your mindset times the actions that you take, the very intentional, mindful actions that you take equals have. What are
Mhm.
the outcomes that you want to have? What is the success that you
There
want
you
to
go.
have, right?
Same thing. Mhm.
Yeah, exactly. So, I love that you are we're working with a lot of the same tools. So let me switch gears here a little bit. I'm going to ask you some rapid fire questions,
Okay.
right? And just give me some like short boom, boom, boom answers, and it'll be like a game show, right?
Okay.
All
Sure.
right. So what is the key to success for other entrepreneurs, in your opinion?
Knowledge and getting along with people.
What is your best piece of advice for other business owners?
Get out of your own way.
Ooh, that's a good one. I haven't had that one yet, and I love that one. And if you had to choose any one area of your business, like today, as you look at your three businesses, if you could fix any part or immediately improve part or wave your magic wand over any one part and fix something immediately, what would that be?
How we interact with each other. That's our struggles right now are putting together the new systems that you can use
Mhm.
on computers to
Got
make
it.
the information better. I mean, I'm not great at computers, and habitually you're going to hire people, and it's no everybody's not meant to go to college, and nor should they. And a lot of people are meant to be in the trades, but
Yes.
the trades folks weren't the guy in high school that was getting straight A's, but they were in shop building the cars,
Yep.
and they were in shop building houses, and they were in shop doing electrical, and they were doing all these things that we use them for here, but they weren't and aren't the computer guys. And so we have to come up with ways to get them to use it. And I think AI is getting ready to really transform all of this.
Oh, yeah.
But that's the next step, is how do we become more efficient in how we track material,
Mm,
equipment, and labor? If we can get those
yeah.
three things under control, that's how you spend your money. So
Yep.
so
Absolutely.
that's our challenge. That's our biggest challenge.
That makes total sense. And my last question for you today,
Mhm.
this has been a great conversation, Jim. I've had such a good time. I hope you have
Thank
too.
you. I have.
What is most inspiring to you today?
I gotta say, now that I'm a grandfather, watching my kids kind of go through what I
Nice.
went through.
Are they in business
Um,
for themselves or just like from a
my
parenting
that
standpoint?
well, all of them are their own special people. My daughter works for DH Griffin,
Yep, yep.
which we do very little work with, if we do any. But she is their marketing person there, and she does all. If you see something that's videoed or whatever, I think she does most of it.
Nice.
I don't exactly know, but I think she does.
Yeah,
Uh, we don't talk about that very much.
yeah.
My son, one works for Cintas in Durham.
Yep.
And he does very well, and he's got two kids. And my other son works for a bank down out of Charlotte, and I'm not sure 100% of what he does either, but he has two children. And watching them raise their children, us getting to have the grandkids, um, seeing kind of a 35-year-old mirror of what we went through is kind of cool.
Mm,
And that's my hope, is that uh, no matter who and where you sit on the political scale, it's really about everybody figuring out how to get along. We can have differences, but watching people raise their children kind of reinvigorates you to, okay, this thing's not as broke as we think it is. So,
So I mentioned that I had just gotten back from a trip and we just had
mhm.
two really magical moments that were just intergenerational,
Mhm.
intercultural, and it was just moments of pure human connection,
Mhm.
right? Just very simple. And it just reminded me of exactly what you're talking about, is it doesn't matter who you voted for or where you come from or
Mhm.
how much money you have or who you love or whatever, right?
Right.
It's just all about, we're all basically want the same things. And when you can bring that into the workplace, that absolutely makes a big difference. Well,
So,
Jim, thank you so much. We're going to get this out across all the social media channels. And I just want to
okay.
thank you again for your time today. And hey, listen, join us next time when we're going to have more amazing conversations. And we hope that you've enjoyed this conversation with Jim. Leave us some comments. Tell us what you learned. Tell us what you loved about it. And we will see you soon.